I still remember the day Grandma and Grandpa sat me and my wife at their antique dining table, all gleaming mahogany and embroidered cloth, and told us they wouldn't be contributing a dime to our son's college fund. Their voices were patient, measured. I almost expected them to offer us tea and cookies. Instead, they slid a legal pad across the table on which they'd scrawled their decision: no more loans or gifts for Josh's education. My wife's knuckles went white on the edge of the table. I nearly knocked over my coffee mug in shock. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Across from me, my mom let out a sharp breath, half sigh, half suppression, and the silence stretched until it felt like it might crack someone's ribs. Finally, Grandpa cleared his throat. "We've done our part," he said. "We gave everything we could to your education and your start in life. It's time for you two to take it from here." "But Josh is only 2 years old," my wife said, voice trembling. "He's just a toddler. He can't fend for college on his own." Grandma folded her hands, pale lace sleeves brushing her gold bracelet. "We're in our 80s. We're cutting down. We can't promise what we might need for care. We're sorry." I felt my heart thud so loudly, I worried they could hear it over the quiet hum of the heater. I nodded at my wife, and we left without protest. Grandparents don't argue when they've set their minds, don't question them when they're determined to protect their nest egg. As we walked to the car, my wife's eyes were hurt. "How could they say that?" she whispered. "How can they let him start life already behind?" I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "We'll figure it out," I promised, though I wasn't sure how. College tuition wasn't a hobby, it was a windfall. But my words sounded as hollow as the empty driveway. We didn't have savings, we weren't rich by any means, just two public school teachers scraping by, paying rent, covering groceries, saving for emergencies. Our budget line for college fund was a blank row in a spreadsheet, a dream rather than a plan. We did the math once: 2-year community college, barely manageable; 4-year state university, we'd be digging loans until retirement. Private schools, a fantasy. In the months that followed, my wife and I made tough choices. We canceled our streaming subscriptions, packed our lunches, declined the annual teacher conference in Hawaii, extra professional development, the small luxuries we once took for granted. Each dollar saved went into a high-yield savings account we labeled Josh's future. We started a side hustle. I wrote biology tutoring guides on nights and weekends. She crocheted baby blankets for the local boutique moms. It added a few $100s a month. Not much, but a beginning. Our parents, my folks, murmured sympathy, but no cash. Grandma and Grandpa stayed resolute. They sent birthday cards with $20 gift certificates to toy stores and gas stations. Their message was clear: we love him, but we can't invest. And so we invested in something else: belief. Every night, my wife and I tucked our son into bed with the same story. Not fairy tales of princesses and dragons, but the story of the single mother who became a scientist, the story of the janitor who went to law school at night, the story of the fourth-generation farmer who founded a scholarship. We told Josh that money was just one part of the equation: work ethic, persistence, creativity, community. We told him that when he turned 18, he'd have options: scholarships, grants, work-study, loans, crowdfunding, anything. We told him he was the architect of his destiny. He listened wide-eyed, absorbing every word. Even at age 4, he'd ask, "Mommy, how do I get a scholarship?" And we'd outline science fair competitions, essay contests, volunteer hours. By the time he was 6, he was practicing spelling on his whiteboard: SCHOLARSHIP. When he turned 10, we took him to campus tours. We'd pile into the rental van and drive an hour to our local university. He'd sit in the lecture hall, eyes huge, jotting notes on campus maps. He'd ask questions to deans. "Do you offer need-based aid? What percentage of grads are debt-free? Can I research marine biology here?" Each question was a seed we planted in his ambition. Grandma and Grandpa would ask us about those trips. "Why are you dragging him to the big school for now?" Grandpa would say, shaking his head kindly, "Let him play baseball, not worry about loans." I'd only smile. "He's playing baseball, Grandpa, and planning his future." They'd scoff softly, then slip him a candy bar when we weren't looking. In high school, Josh exploded. Not in a bad way. He was still grounded, still gentle, but in an academic supernova. He took AP classes, joined the robotics club, volunteered at the animal shelter. By junior year, he'd accumulated a stack of certificates: National Merit Commended, Science Olympiad medalist, essay contest winner. His GPA hovered at 4.2 thanks to weighted courses. He wrote compelling college essays on a typewriter-style laptop, spilling ink about how losing the grandparents' money taught him resilience. Each acceptance letter from universities was like a milestone on a marathon. First the state schools, then specialized programs, then merit scholarships that covered a quarter or half of tuition. By the end of senior year, he had offers, 5 in total, that added up to full rides plus stipends. We sat in the den, letters strewn around us, and my wife and I held hands, tears streaming. "He did it," I whispered. "He always did it," my wife corrected, smiling through her tears. We agreed he would advance to our alma mater, which had offered him the presidential scholarship covering everything. He called them the safety my mom built, and insisted on thanking his mom during the scholarship ceremony. The irony wasn't lost on us. Grandma and Grandpa watched the live stream of his acceptance ceremony on their tiny living room TV. My mom helped them adjust the antenna. When the address began, I saw Grandma's hands clamp the remote, tears sliding down her cheeks. Grandpa's chin trembled. Afterward, Grandma whispered to Grandpa, "I guess we underestimated him." When we saw them at Christmas, Grandma pulled Josh aside. "I'm sorry, son," she said, voice quavering. "Your parents and we thought we were doing the right thing." She laid a check on his palm, $5,000, a congratulatory gift that he graciously declined. "Use it for spring break, travel, whatever." He hugged her. "I'm fine," he said. "But thank you." Grandpa poked his head around the door. "Just promise you'll visit." He nodded. "Promise." Graduation day arrived with a cool breeze and cloudless sky. We gathered in the stadium, packed with families, caps and gowns fluttering like sea foam. I wore a suit for the first time in years. My wife wore a dress she'd salvaged from her teacher's closet, still just as elegant. Grandma and Grandpa sat front row, leaning on each other, proud but a little uneasy, like they were watching a play where they'd missed the first act. The chancellor called out names. Graduates flooded the stage, and then Joshua Miller, Bachelor of Science with honors. As he walked across the stage, diploma folder in hand, my chest swelled. The band struck the alma mater chords. Tears filled my eyes. Afterwards, families flocked to shake hands. Mom and Dad beamed, tears in their eyes, hugging him tight. Grandma reached him first. She pressed something into his palm. I saw the glint of an envelope. Grandpa's handwriting on the front. A small token, with love. Josh looked at her, then at me. "Mom," he whispered. "Thank you." "I did it," I bent down. "You did it yourself, Josh. You figured it out." He smiled, then turned to the crowd. We linked arms and posed for the family photo. 4 generations, tears and laughter mingled. Behind us, the old campus buildings loomed, columns, ivy, memories. In that moment, I realized that the college fund Grandma and Grandpa denied had never been about the money. It was about trust, support, belief. They'd thought they were protecting us. We'd thought we were protecting Josh, but in the end, it was all love, complicated and messy. The cap toss rose like a burst of white flowers in the sky. As candy-colored streamers drifted, I felt something shift, a forgiveness, a new beginning. Maybe next year, I thought, I'll send Grandma and Grandpa a picture of Josh's first paycheck. They'd laugh all over again. And as the stadium emptied and we walked toward the shady lawn, I heard Josh's voice, bright with promise. "So, what's next, Mom? PhD? MD? Start a company?" I looked at my wife. She shrugged, grinning. "Whatever he wants, kiddo." He glanced back at the receding crowd. I think I want to build a scholarship fund for kids whose grandparents said no." I stopped walking. The afternoon light haloed his cap. "You're going to do that?" His grin was all confidence. "Yeah, so no one ever has to start without believing." I felt the world stretch wide under that blue sky, every possibility ahead. And I knew he'd made them regret nothing, because he'd shown us all the power of faith, grit, and a dream that refused to be denied. I watched the last of the mortar dust tumble from the old ivy-covered pillars that marked the entrance to Alder University's quad, where just weeks ago we'd celebrated Josh's graduation with caps in the air. Now, in mid-August, the same lawn was empty, except for me and a small group of determined students gathered around a single folding table. Behind it, a hand-painted banner read, in proud, uneven letters, "The Miller McLeod Scholarship Foundation. Opening doors, changing lives." I still pinch myself sometimes. 4 years ago, when Grandma and Grandpa said no to my son's college fund, I never imagined he'd turn that refusal into a legacy for others. Yet here I was, handing out the first awards from a scholarship Josh dreamed up. A scholarship to help kids whose families couldn't afford tuition, just like he had. A lanky teenager approached the table. her jeans patched with colorful fabric and her hair woven into braids that peaked with silver beads. She glanced at the banner, then up at me. "Miss Thompson?" I smiled. "Yes?" She dug in her backpack and pulled out an envelope. I'm here to thank you. I got your email about the application deadline changing, so I made it just in time." I took the envelope. Inside was her handwritten application, thick with clay-red fingerprints from her after-school pottery class. I had read essays from 200 students this summer, and hers stuck out. She wrote about being the first in her family to finish high school, about sneaking into the library after bedtime to study for state exams, and about that one time she borrowed her teacher's blazer to sit in a quiet corner of the school's old lecture hall. Something about that detail, it mirrored Josh's own story, made my heart skip. "You're on the short list," I said, and her eyes widened. "Congratulations." Tears welled. "Thank you. Thank you so much." She ran off before I could refill my water bottle, weaving through the empty quad with a grace that made me think she already knew she had a future worth racing toward. As she left, Josh appeared, hands in his pockets, stepping lightly in his cap and gown from last spring's ceremony. He'd wired me a photo of him in his lab coat when he got his first job offer at Genentech, his first full-time paycheck. He'd been conspicuously absent from the family group chat this summer, diving into research and internships. But today he wore the same mischievous grin I first felt for 15 years ago. "Busy?" I asked. He shrugged. "First awards day. Feels like crunch time." I nodded. "You ready for your speech?" He smirked. "I wrote it on a napkin last night." He pulled out a folded square of paper, coffee ringed, scribbled in his precise looping script. "It's emotional, Mom." I gave him a sideways look. "Don't cry." He shoved the napkin into his pocket. "No promises." Across the lawn, a small gathering had assembled. Local teachers, university donors, the mayor, wearing a ribbon sash that flagged keynote speaker, as if she hadn't read her own invitation. She waved and mouthed, "Great job." I took a deep breath, squinting at the poplar trees that had shaded our family's summer gatherings. Years ago, I'd sat under one of those trees with Josh on my lap, telling him college would be hard but possible. Today, I stood beside him, handing down empowering proof that a child can outrun a no when nurtured by community. The mayor approached, shaking my hand. "Lisa Thompson," she said, leaning in, "you and your son have set an example for us all." I smiled. "Thank you, Mayor Vasquez." She patted my shoulder. "I'm proud of you both." She drifted away to greet the next volunteer on the list, and Josh stepped forward. I remembered this moment. 4 years ago, it would have been him in my chair, me cheering him on. Today, he wore the shy confidence of a mentor, as if he'd donned a new coat stitched by every kid he helped. He cleared his throat. "Hi, everyone." His voice boomed across the empty quad, carried by summer's stillness. "Thank you for coming today." When my grandparents told us they couldn't help with my college fund, my first reaction was shock, then fear. But my mom and dad taught me that sometimes a door closes and you build a window. He grinned at me. "So I built this window. And these are the first people who get to climb through it." He paused to scroll through the napkin. "We, my parents and I, are thrilled to award the inaugural Miller-McLeod Scholarship to 3 outstanding students, Aisha Khan, Rafael Ortiz, and Emily Chen. Each will receive $5,000 toward their first year of college, plus mentorship, internships, and community events. We believe in you, and we can't wait to see what you'll build." A round of applause erupted, tentative at first, then enthusiastic. I looked at his proud face, framed by the old campus buildings, and felt tears threaten. He guided each recipient forward. They gave heartfelt thanks, holding flowers and shaking hands. The mayor snapped selfies, parents beamed, and I thought this was worth every late night, every tutoring guide I wrote, every canceled dinner out. After the ceremony, we walked through the quad toward his old dorm steps. He wore his cap off-tilted, hair mussed. I slid an arm around his shoulders. "It's perfect," I whispered. He leaned in. "We couldn't have done it without you." I shook my head. "No, you did it. You turned no into yes for hundreds." He paused at the corner where the engraved bench read, "In memory of Dorothy Miller, educator, mentor, friend, my mom's mother, an elementary school teacher, who'd believed education was a birthright." The bench was often dotted with students studying or friends chatting. Today it held a single bouquet of daisies, bright as a promise. He rested his hand on the marble. "Graham would be proud," I swallowed. "She'd be so proud." He turned to me. "Hey, Mom, what's next?" I raised an eyebrow. Well, you have a full scholarship in biology, a gig at Genetech, and a foundation to run. So, I guess I'm your intern now. He laughed, and the sun sparkled in his eyes. Deal. Weeks later, after the scholarship website launched and the first donors pledged, Grandma and Grandpa surprised us at our kitchen table, twice now adept at sneaking into our lives to hand Josh checks, but this time they just sat and watched him type up guidelines for next year's applicants. Grandpa cleared his throat. We were proud. We were wrong. Josh looked up, blinking at them. About the money that you couldn't give? They nodded. We thought we needed it ourselves, but we see now that you needed something bigger, your own path. Grandma dabbed her eyes. May we contribute? A little seed money for next year? Josh stood and hugged them both. Of course, I watched the embrace, so many years folded and healed in that moment, and felt the warmth of forgiveness. That fall, the scholarship recipients crossed paths with Josh at his lab, listening as he coached them on interview skills. One afternoon, Aisha Khan, now wearing a crisp white lab coat, asked him in the break room, "What kept you going when everything looked impossible?" He smiled and gestured around at the flasks and chromatographs. My parents' belief, and my grandparents' tough love. They gave me no silver spoon, but maybe that spoon was for stirring sugar in tea, not for making me drink. If you want something, and you're ready to build the ladder yourself, you'll find a way. She nodded and grinned. Then I'll make this scholarship stir the world. As the seasons turned, the Miller-McLeod Scholarship grew. Art majors, engineers, social workers, and athletes all received support. College acceptances rolled in from across the country, some with full rides, others with partial aid plus work study. Each student sent a photo with their thank you note, smiling faces, holding letters, standing in cap and gown, posing with hometown landmarks. At the end of each year, we held a reunion dinner under string lights in our backyard. Grad speeches were given from a makeshift stage. Cousins, neighbors, even my old high school teachers attended, sharing memories and advice. As we grew the list of alumni, we also grew the circle of donors, small businesses who pledged a meal plan, grant retired professors who offered tutoring, a tech startup that hosted hackathons on our lawn. One particular evening, I noticed Grandma and Grandpa sitting at a picnic table, sipping lemonade and watching Josh with pride. Grandpa nudged Grandma. Who would have thought? Our stubborn boy. She smiled, squinting as he lectured a group of freshmen on scholarship applications. He's smart enough. But his heart, that's the real engine. I walked over, careful not to startle them. Hi, tea? I held out a pitcher. Grandma patted the bench. Sit, dear. I sat and poured. Grandpa asked quietly, "Do you regret it, denying your son the fund?" I set the glasses down and took a deep breath. Not for a second. If you'd given him the money, he might have coasted. He might have seen college as a transaction. But when he had to build a path, he realized he could build one for others. He built something bigger than he. They exchanged a look that reminded me of my parents' early days, uncertainty softened by enduring love. Grandma reached out and squeezed my hand. Thank you for making us part of this. I smiled, tears tugging at my eyes. Thank you for giving him the roots and the challenge to grow. Overhead, paper lanterns swayed in the summer breeze, and the laughter of a new generation drifted around us. I watched Josh step down from the stage, surrounded by alumni and freshmen, arms linked like a living chain. He'd made them regret nothing. He'd made them proud, and given something extraordinary to so many who thought life had closed the door. And as the music rose, acoustic guitars and soft piano, I realized that the greatest regret of all would be to think success is measured by money. In the gentle glow of that night, I learned that success is measured by doors opened, lives changed, and the courage to turn no into yes for generations to come.